Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're here down in Des Plaines, Illinois at All Saints Catholic Cemetery. Behind me is a pretty impressive mausoleum. Never been inside this one, but I should go check it out. I don't have the time today. I came down here to check out this grave site. It's a pretty well-known grave site. Not really well-known grave site, but the person that's buried here is well-known. He was a sportscaster for many years. A lot of people also said that he had two careers. And this person we're talking about is none other than Harry Caray. He spent 25 years broadcasting with the St. Louis Cardinals, then had his second career and broadcasted for another 25 years, give or take, with the Chicago Cubs. He also did some other broadcasting stuff, but for the major part, it was St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs. He really became famous when he started broadcasting with the Chicago Cubs, and his holy cow and his it could be, there it is, it could be, I can't remember the whole saying right now because I'm trying to get it out, but it is a home run. And in the 7th inning stretch, it's a good times with Harry Caray here in Chicago. But let's go check out his gravesite, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Harry Caray and his life. I was walking around the cemetery here for a little bit. I think I might just found it. Maybe this is it. No, that's not it either. It is Cub fans. Still trying to find it. I got the, says where it is. I don't know how to read the, I don't have markers to where plots. I do have all the plot information, but I just cannot find it. It should be around here somewhere. Could this be it? Here is a Caray. I see, it looks like a Caray. Yeah, this is it. Here we go. Found it. All right. And an apple. The W. The win. And it's 1914 to 1998. Holy cow. Forever devoted to the fans of baseball. Born Harry Christopher Carabina on March 1st, 1914, and keeping much of his early life shrouded in mystery. Some sources I've read say that Caray was born to an Italian father and a Romanian mother. However, census records from the time show that both of his parents were Albanian. Harry's father, Christopher Carabina, went off to fight in the First World War, and Harry never really got to know his father. His mother passed away when Harry was 14 from pneumonia. After his mother passed away, he went and lived with his aunt and uncle in St. Louis. In 1930, the family moved 10 miles away near Webster Groves High School, and Harry began attending high school there. Whenever he could, he would go to Sportsman Park to watch the St. Louis Cardinals play. It was an escape from his unhappy life. For as long as I remember, baseball had been their most important thing in my life, Caray said. It filled a lot of emptiness for me. It filled a great void in my life, and I loved it. There were times I probably loved it too much. Loved it more than I loved anything else. So whenever he could afford it, he would attend those games. At Webster High School, Caray played second base and shortstop, and he played well enough that he was offered a scholarship from the University of Alabama. However, though, he was unable to pay for the expenses for room and board or the books, so he did not accept the scholarship. After high school, Caray worked odd jobs and picked up additional money playing semi-pro baseball on the weekends for the Smith Undertakers and the Webster Grove Birds. Through a friend at the Webster Grove Birds baseball team, Harry landed a steady job as an assistant sales manager with a company that made lockers and other gym equipment. Caray continued to attend Cardinals home games as often as possible, but he noticed that the games that he saw in person were always more exciting than the play-by-play he heard on the radio at home. Convinced he could do a better job broadcasting Cardinals games himself, he brazenly sent a personal letter to the home of Merle Jones, general manager of radio station KMOX, asking for the job. Impressed by Caray's drive and enthusiasm, Jones arranged for Caray to audition at the station. Jones thought he had a great voice, but just needed some more experience, and Jones helped Caray land a job at radio station WCLS in Joliet, Illinois. By the spring of 1940, Harry was working at WCLS covering all kinds of sporting events like high school, junior college basketball games, summer softball leagues, and bowling league events. The station manager at WCLS, Bob Holt, suggested that Harry change his last name from Carabina to Caray because the name Carabina sounded too awkward on the air, according to Holt. And after working at WCLS for about a year and a half, Caray was hired as a sports director at station WKZO in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Over there, Caray hosted locally produced pregame and postgame shows. He also provided play-by-play broadcasts of Western Michigan University's basketball and football teams. And also while working at WKZO, Harry got his first experience with baseball play-by-play broadcasting, a semi-pro tournament in Battle Creek, Michigan. During that broadcast, he uttered two phrases that he would use throughout the rest of his career. When a player would hit a home run, Caray would exclaim, "It might be, it could be, it is a home run!" And the other expression Harry would use came from training himself not to use profanity, because he knew that wouldn't fly on the air. So whenever Harry was excited, he would say "holy cow" instead of some profanity. The expression itself was not unique to Caray's broadcasts. It had been used over the air by Hazley Hall as early as 1930s, and later by the New York Yankees announcer Phil Rizzuto. Harry himself said that, not that it's so unique, everybody uses "holy cow." The unique part was that I finally did it on a major league broadcast in 1945 with a lot of radio stations across the country listening to it. Rejected from military service because of bad eyesight, Caray moved back to St. Louis, where he was working at radio station KXOK by early 1944. Working first as a staff announcer, Caray soon had a 15-minute nightly sports news show. But unlike other sports show hosts of the time, Caray not only provides sports news, he also editorialized and criticized. His controversial approach won a lot of attention when both St. Louis teams met in the World Series. In the fall of that year, Caray was hired to do play-by-play of minor league St. Louis Flyers hockey team, college basketball, and other events sponsored by the Greasy Deck Brothers Brewery on station WIL. The Greasy Deck Brothers were planning on sponsoring broadcasts of Cardinals and Browns home games in 1945 and were looking for a famous sportscaster to handle the play-by-play duties. Caray went directly to brewery president Edward Greasy Deck to lobby for the job. Edward initially turned him down, explaining that he preferred to hire an announcer in the style of veteran St. Louis broadcaster France Laux. Edward explained that Laux described the action in a way that allowed a person to listen and yet read the newspaper undisturbed. At this, Caray exploded. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to sponsor baseball, and when your commercial comes on, when your hand-picked announcer is selling your product, you're busy reading the paper. Caray continued, you need someone who's going to keep the fan interested in the game. Because if they are paying attention to the game, they'll be paying attention to the commercial. And convinced by Caray's argument, and certain Caray could keep the fans interested, Edward Greasy Deck hired him on the spot. So starting in the spring of 1945, Harry teamed with former catcher and manager Gabby Street to broadcast the home games of the Cardinals and the Browns over station WIL. And back in these days, there was no exclusive broadcast rights, and several stations aired the baseball games in direct competition with each other. Between the enthusiasm of Caray and the analysis and expertise of Gabby Street, the duo built a following in the St. Louis area. And as the Cardinals won the National League pennant in 1946, Caray and Street gained increasing popularity from St. Louis fans. Caray's only regret about the 1946 season was that he did not get the chance to broadcast the World Series, which the Cardinals won in 7 games. In 1947, then Cardinals president granted exclusive broadcast rights to the Greasy Deck brothers, and this meant that Caray and Street would be the only broadcasters for all Cardinals home games. There were many that viewed Caray's style as controversial, and Caray once said, you cannot be controversial by design because it comes off as phony. It has to be spontaneous. I'm like a fan. If I see something on the field I don't like, I react the way a fan does. If I think a player isn't hustling, I'll say so. And if I think a manager is making mistakes platooning, I'll say so. And when I was with the Cardinals, I was always in the hot box. I've always said managers and owners don't like me, but people love me. And Stan Musial said of Caray years later, he said it like it was. I guess some of the ball players were perturbed, but he was a fan. He didn't mean anything by it. A little later, he'd be rooting for you. He just wanted the ball players to do well. Some of the highlights from Caray's career with the Cardinals were the 1957 All-Star Game, and also he was there when in May of 1958 when Stan Musial got his 3,000th hit, and he broadcast the World Series in 1967 and 1968. When he was not on the air broadcasting, he would enjoy partying and mingling with the fans at local taverns and stuff. Spending so much time on the road with the Cardinals and celebrating with fans afterwards really did take a toll on his personal life, though. And so in 1949, Dorothy Caray, his wife of 12 years, divorced him. And Skip, their 10-year-old son, remembered being devastated as he learned of the divorce when he saw it in the headlines on the front page of the newspaper as he walked home from school. After the divorce, Skip, his brother Christopher, and his sister Patricia would see even less of their father as he kept up the grueling travel schedule of a professional sportscaster. Caray's career almost came to an end on November 3rd, 1968, when Caray was leaving a St. Louis hotel at 1:15 in the morning, and while he was crossing the street, he was struck by a car by a military veteran that was just back from Vietnam that morning. He had no driver's license and no insurance, and he knocked Caray about 35 feet in the air and broke both his legs, his shoulders, and his only one shoulder, and broke his nose. Doctors said he would be in the hospital for 7 months, but Caray ended up walking out after about 3.5 months, and he never missed a game. Caray recovered and returned for his 25th season with the Cardinals in 1969. It turned out to be his last, and he was fired at the end of that season over rumors of an affair with Susan Bush, wife of August Bush III. He was not unemployed long, though, and in 1970 he was hired to broadcast games for the Oakland Athletics. But after about a year, Harry was missing the Midwest, and he left Oakland for Chicago. And Harry became the voice of the White Sox in 1971. And White Sox, under owner John Allen, was experienced difficult financial times, and he wasn't able to offer Caray the same salary as he was making in Oakland, but he did offer an attendance clause. Knowing Caray had a reputation of promoting the game and drawing fans, the White Sox offered Caray a $10,000 bonus for every 100,000 spectators. The Sox drew over 600,000, and more than 800,000 came to see the White Sox that year. Caray loved Chicago, and as he had in other cities, he tried to provide fun for the fans. He would take a cooler of beer to the outfield bleachers, pass out bottles of beer, and broadcast games from there. He would continue to mingle with the fans in area taverns, celebrating into the early morning hours after the game, and soon became known as the mayor of Rush Street. And if you're not from Chicago, Rush Street is it's just a strip of bars, both sides, and then open very, very early hours in the morning. I don't even remember that. I think 4 o'clock, or I think they start kicking you out of there, or something like 4, maybe even 4:30. But yeah, you can get yourself in trouble down in Rush Street. Caray was not afraid to criticize when warranted. This also put him at odds with players like Bill Melton and manager Chuck Tanner. And by the end of the 1975 season, the White Sox owner John Allen had heard enough of Caray's criticisms and was going to fire him. But however, in December 1975, a group of investors led by Bill Veeck bought the team. And knowing the popularity of Caray he had with the fans, he kept him on. And it was because of Veeck that another one of Caray's trademarks began. It was one night Veeck noticed Caray singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" in the booth during the 7th inning stretch. Inspired, the next night Veeck secretly installed a public address microphone in the booth and turned it on when Caray began singing the song. Caray was surprised to hear his voice singing over the PA, and Harry recalled back in 1996, "When the game was over, I walked over to Veeck and said, 'What the hell was that all about?' Veeck said, 'Harry, I've been looking for 45 years for the right man to sing this song.'" Harry began to puff up with flattery. "Yes," Veeck said, "everybody, no matter where they were sitting, as soon as they heard you, they knew they could sing better than you, so they would join in." This began the tradition of Caray leading the fans off in the off-key rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." In 1981, the White Sox were sold to a group of investors led by Jerry Reinsdorf and Eddie Einhorn. And by late 1981, Reinsdorf and Einhorn were planning to put the White Sox telecast on a subscriber-only pay TV channel. Caray felt strongly against this and said it would never work. Caray, who was already having reservations about working with Reinsdorf and Einhorn, contacted the Chicago Cubs and asked if they would be interested in hiring him to replace retiring TV announcer Jack Brickhouse. And of course the Cubs were. And in November 1981, it was announced that Harry Caray would be the new voice of the Chicago Cubs. With Caray working the first 3 innings and the last 3 innings on television and the middle 3 on radio, and the games being televised on Superstation WGN, which was seen in 30 million homes by the late 1980s, Caray became even more of a celebrity than he had been broadcasting on a large radio network with the Cardinals. He continued the tradition of occasionally broadcasting games from the outfield bleachers and led fans in singing the "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." On February 17, 1987, Caray suffered a stroke, and it was uncertain if he'd ever work again. Well wishes from fans all over sent boxes of mail and expressions of love in letters and flowers from people he didn't even know. It breathed a little hope into him, and Caray worked hard and returned to the broadcast booth. Caray was not able to be back with the team by opening day, so the Cubs used a series of guest broadcasters in his place, including sportscaster Brent Musburger, columnist George Will, and comedian Bill Murray. On May 19, 1987, Caray made his return to Wrigley Field, and during the game he received an on-air phone call from President Ronald Reagan welcoming him back to the booth. It would not be the last time Caray received greetings from the White House. Reagan visited the Wrigley Field booth on September 30th, 1988, and broadcast part of the game. In 1994, the then First Lady Hillary Clinton joined Harry in leading off the singing of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Caray broadcast for some exciting teams in Chicago as the Cubs won the National League East title in 1984 and in 1989. And however exciting the game might be on the field, Caray made sure to have fun in his broadcast as well. His partner Steve Stone recalled how when Caray thought the game was moving too slowly, he would pronounce players' names backwards, and he also had mispronounced the player's name, and sometimes on purpose. Towards the end of his life, Harry reflected, "If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have missed my kids growing up. I missed a lot, and I have regrets, but I think I've made up for that now, and I have a wonderful family." By the early 1990s, that family included 3 generations of Caray's broadcasting baseball. His son Skip worked to establish his own name in the business and became the voice of the Atlanta Braves in 1976. Skip's son Chip Caray would begin broadcasting the games of the NBA's Orlando Magic in 1989, and would join his father in the Braves booth 2 years later. On May 13, 1991, Harry, Skip, and Chip Caray were together at the microphone as the Braves and the Cubs played at Wrigley Field. During a road trip in Miami in June of 1994, Harry collapsed and was hospitalized. Doctors discovered that he had an irregular heartbeat. He returned to broadcasting games a month later, but cut back greatly on his travel schedule. Doctors also ordered Harry to restrict his alcohol consumption as well. Harry said, "I'm reduced to drinking O'Doul's. Can you imagine Harry Caray unable to drink a martini? Without a cold Budweiser? It's not me." By now, twice divorced, Harry found a lasting partnership with his third wife, Dutchie. After his stroke, Harry insisted that Dutchie travel with him on road trips. And as the years went on, Dutchie's presence on the road became more important to him. "I don't want to die alone in a hotel room like my friend Don Drysdale did," Harry said. Shortly before the 1998 season, Harry's grandson Chip was hired to announce the Cubs games with him. Harry was excited at the prospect of working with his grandson. Sadly, it was not to be. On Valentine's Day of 1998, Harry collapsed while having dinner with Dutchie at a Rancho Mirage, California restaurant. He never regained consciousness and died 4 days later of cardiac arrest with resultant brain damage. Harry's funeral mass was held at Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago and is buried here in All Saints Cemetery in Des Plaines, Illinois. On opening day, 1998, Dutchie Caray led the Wrigley Field faithful in the singing of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." It's a tradition that still continues today, with guest conductors filling Harry's place as leader of the seventh inning stretch. After Harry Caray's death, a statue of him was dedicated outside the entrance of Wrigley Field. In 2010, the statue was moved to the outfield bleacher entrance. Cubs owner Tom Ricketts explained the move, saying, "As a real fan, he was always comfortable in the bleachers. He liked the atmosphere in the bleachers, and he would have probably agreed himself." The taxi driver, the bartender, the waitress, the man in the street, those are my people. Harry Caray was a larger-than-life figure who loved the game and broadcasted with enthusiasm. He was respected by his colleagues for his play-by-play ability, but unlike many sportscasters, he never hesitated to editorialize. Caray had fun with the game, handing out bottles of beer, singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and sometimes purposely mispronouncing players' names on the air. Let's face it, a broadcaster has to be an entertainer. The game isn't all about balls and strikes. You have to have a sense of humor, and believe me, there's nothing like having fun at the old ballpark, Harry said back in 1979. In over a half a century of broadcasting, Caray led the fun in St. Louis, Oakland, and Chicago, describing the games of the Browns, Cardinals, Athletics, White Sox, and Cubs. We the fans, thank you, Harry. I want to thank you all for joining me here at the gravesite of famed sportscaster Harry Caray. He definitely was an interesting character and made baseball a lot more fun when he was alive and doing his sportscasting. But I want to thank you all for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you. Please like and share, and if you haven't, please check out the rest of my channel and subscribe so you don't miss out of the news videos I put out. So thank you all again. Love each and every one of you. Have a blessed day. So long. I'm gonna have to come back here when I have a little bit more time to spend. Check out this mausoleum. I've been inside the Queen of Heaven mausoleum on the hillside, and it's just so impressive. I love the stained glass inside these things, and you can see the stained glass in this one. Probably looks pretty impressive inside. Another time.